Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We hope that you're continuing to be inspired and you're continuing to just feel encouraged by everything that you're hearing so far. Today, I want to talk about something that a lot of women go through and experience, and that is bitterness. Whether it's in child loss or in infertility, we've all experienced an amount of bitterness in our spirits and in our hearts about our circumstance. And it's okay. It's okay to be bitter, and it's okay to feel the way you feel. And we want to talk about how we overcame our bitterness and was able to enjoy life and to just release our situation to God, who is more powerful than what we can imagine.
Yes. And so if you caught our previous videos, you know a little bit about both of our journeys, mine with child loss and Christie's with infertility. And so just the emotions that came along with those, that path, that journey of trying to have a successful pregnancy for me and trying to get pregnant for Christy. And along that journey, the bitterness definitely arose. For me, it especially showed up after the loss of my son. If you checked out our journeys, we'll put the links in the description box. But just briefly, I lost a daughter at 24 weeks and then lost a son at 27 weeks. And so after the loss of our son, I was so bitter. I was so angry. I didn't know what to do. Like, I always relied on my faith. And at that point, I was just like, what is the point? What is the point? And so I was just so just angry with God, and I just didn't want to even reach out to God anymore, because I felt that, I tried to pray, I tried to seek God in everything, and He didn't come through. And so at that point, I just left it alone. And it was a process. It was a process to get
Overcome
through
that bitterness.
Yes.
So what do you think was the turning point for you where you said, you know what, I can't live like this. I can't continue going on day by day just being bitter because it's eating away at me. Like, what was that turning point for you?
It was after we went on our travels and got back to the States, and I realized that nothing really had changed. I still had the same emotions. I just kind of bottled them up while we were traveling and suppressed them, and acting like they weren't there, and thinking that, okay, this is what I needed, so when I get back, I'm gonna be okay. And it didn't happen that way. And so when I got back and I found myself in a ball of tears again, I realized that, okay, I have to do something, because this isn't fun.
Yes.
This isn't fun to just be so emotional and of course, for a reason. It's not like just being an emotional person. But of course, for a reason. And nobody would blame me, but for me, who's always been pretty happy and upbeat, joyous, it just did not feel good. And so I was just like, okay, Lord, I need a change. I don't know where you have been for these past several months, but I'm willing. And really, the Lord used my husband, because he had been kind of encouraging me, like, hey, we should probably go back to church. He would ask me, but he wouldn't try to force me. Every single time I said no, absolutely not interested. I don't care, And for some reason, this was at the end of the year, and so we were coming up to the watch night service. We hadn't been to church that entire year, and so he asked me, he was just like, would you be interested in going to my cousin's church? And for some reason, I didn't feel the same type of
discontent.
I was open to it. And so I decided to go with him. like we hadn't planned. We were on our way to his sister's house, you know, celebrate New Year's with her and the girls and everything. And so, not even a thought in my mind.
Your mind at all.
Yeah. And so, we went, and it was just like the word was specifically for me.
Oof.
And I was just like, okay, God, I hear you. And it wasn't like things changed overnight. You know, I definitely can't say that it changed overnight, but it opened my heart to, okay, I can receive, I can get out of this place of bitterness and not just stay here. And so it really did open me up to being, you know, trying to get back to where I
walk
was.
In that place of spiritual healing. Start the journey, at least, even if you're not at the end of the journey. Right. And I think that a lot of women can relate to that, because you know, you may not be anywhere near a place where you're ready to release yourself from that bitterness, and that's okay. That's okay. But we want you to know that that bitterness can weigh you down, and it can steal your joy, and it can steal your hope for what is to come. And so you don't want to be held captive by your bitterness. I know for me, a lot of people didn't know, and some people do know, that I had horrible cramps each month. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 in the pain scale, it was about a 15. Like sometimes I would pass out because the pain was so much. And it was to the point where I just knew, if the calendar says my cycle comes on Friday, I got to put in my leave slip at work. Like I immediately took off work, because I just knew that I couldn't handle it. And to be going through fertility, I felt like they were even worse after fertility treatments. Wow. So each month when that would fail, I started developing anxiety. It's almost like, I don't want to say PTSD, but it was almost kind of like I would be shaking, like, oh, it's coming. Oh God, it's, you know, like it was such a dreadful feeling, and it made me bitter. It made me bitter, because I'm like, God, why are you punishing me? What did I do? I am sorry. I repent. Whatever it is I did to cause this grief on myself, to cause this pain, you know, I'm sorry. And it just was relentless. It never let up. And I could not understand why I was continuing to go into this cycle. So it made me bitter. It made me angry, and it made me call out to God with tear-stained eyes, saying, I can't do this anymore. Like it was to the point where I wanted to give up, and I was contemplating a hysterectomy. Like I didn't want to deal with it anymore, like that pain. And I resented God a little bit for it, because I'm like, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. And so it made me bitter that God would allow something like that to happen to someone like me, who loves people, who, you know, and, but, you know, in all that, I had to learn that I can't let my bitterness control my vision, my outlook on my life, on my marriage, on my relationships, on my job. Like I can't let my bitterness hold me captive. So I had to release it. And so I poured myself into my writing, and I poured myself into, strangely enough, doing more positive things for other people. That helped me take my mind off of what I was going through. And so, and slowly I was able to crawl out of that kind of pit of bitterness and despair and say, you know what? I'm sure that God has not forsaken me. I'm sure that there is more to life than this, that there is more to this. So I'm going to choose to not wallow in my bitterness, and I'm going to choose to just release it.
And that is definitely, it's necessary, because it takes a toll on your body. You're already in this mental, emotional, even physical space that is not good. And so to harbor this bitterness is like, it takes so much out of you. And you just have to find whatever that next thing is, you know, taking that next step to get out of, you know, this place of bitterness. And for me, like you mentioned, writing, that was something that I had to do as well. I had to journal a lot, you know, get my feelings out on paper, and just release it. And so for me, that was a release. After losing my daughter, I did the counseling, but after losing my son, I was like, no counselor can help me at this point. And so I wrote so much. I started writing before, after we lost our daughter, but then it was just like so much.
Constant,
so much.
Got to get it out.
Yes.
Pour out your soul.
And it was helpful, but that's the main thing, just figuring out what it is that you need to do to kind of pull yourself out of that, whether it's writing, whether it is seeking counsel, whether it is going to church, and getting back to your faith, whatever that may be. And so it always reminds me of Hannah, the scripture in 1 Samuel 1:10, where, she is crying out to the Lord. She weeps in bitterness of soul, and she is pouring out her soul to the Lord and saying, why, have you not given me a son? And the Lord answers her. And this was after some time. Yeah. If you look at 1 Samuel, like Hannah took some time and she really, really poured herself out to the Lord, and he finally answered her
prayer. And the same can happen for you. So, just keep that in mind in the future, that we don't want to hold bitterness in.
So thank you for joining us, and always remember, one step at a time
and one day at a time.
We're in this together.
Bye.